Most of TF2's maps use pretty standard design principles: one main path with branching flank routes, walls and props to hide behind, and health kits on the sidelines of battle. However, throughout the official TF2 maps, some have experimented with a variety of interesting and fun mechanics. I rarely see a lot of these mechanics talked about, and tons of them are really interesting. I bet there's some you've never heard of. So today, I'm going to be talking about TF2's most interesting map mechanics. Getting things started, we're going to be talking about Payload, specifically Frontier's Payload, which instead of being the standard bomb cart is actually a much larger train. Aside from looking cool design-wise, the train also offers some significant changes to gameplay. The train comes provided with a dispenser on the back, it can block bullets from the front, and most importantly, it kills anyone who dares get in its way. You would think this would give the attacking team a massive advantage, but the map's design actually complements the train pretty well, and overall, it's a nice original feature. However, despite how fun and refreshing gameplay on Frontier is, it's actually the only map to use such a feature, which is really quite surprising. It's an interesting feature for sure, and one I would love to see implemented on other maps. Next, we're going to talk about good old environmental hazards. Nothing is more satisfying than seeing the perfect opportunity and knocking someone off the map or into a train. Whilst lots of maps can incorporate cliff edges or large falls, much less maps use interesting and dynamic map hazards. Trains are a great example of a dynamic hazard, and it's actually one which Valve has had since the beginning. TF2's beta map Cactus Canyon was designed with trains in mind, and when TF2 was released, Well was the first map to contain trains. Since then, other maps have included trains such as Moss Rock and Freight and Banana Bay. Honestly, I think the trains all add a lot to these maps as it makes the maps feel more alive and it can lead to tons of interesting situations. Other map makers have expanded on this concept further, with Megalo containing not one, not two, but three intersecting train tracks, which all meet on the point of the map. The map's design forces players into risky locations, with both health kits and the entire point being in train zones. The chances of players getting ran over is high, and let's be honest, every encounter with a high velocity skull train in it is more interesting. Well, what if instead of having trains, we had trains, but underground? Well, as it turns out, the pastime map District actually has a subway, which looks really cool. The entire map's design is awesome, and the fact that it has an operating subway on it just amazes me. However, sadly it's relegated to the uninhabited plains of pastime, so the chances anyone actually has to experience this are about as likely as Silksong releasing. Of course, trains aren't the only dynamic hazards. Saws are another dynamic hazard found on, well, Sawmill. Like trains, these lead to tons of interesting situations. However, unlike trains, these are much less common, with only Sawmill and Gravestone containing saws. Honestly, I was pretty surprised to see there are only two maps in the game with saws, one of which was Halloween. Whilst there are some similar obstacles in other Halloween maps, there really isn't much dynamic hazards on the official maps, which is a shame because environmental hazards are cool. I've yet to meet someone who doesn't enjoy the saws on Sawmill, and I could definitely see how other maps could stand out by including similar hazards. Believe it or not, initially lasers were planned for TF2 as well. The beta map Asteroid, which is weird in so many ways, contained lasers that shifted throughout the rooms and dealt over 200 damage. I can't really tell if I would have enjoyed this or not, however, considering the lasers never made it past beta, they probably weren't the most fun. Next, we're going to talk about water. Not just any water, however, but deep water. A lot of maps have shallow water strewn around so you can extinguish yourself or break your fall, but very few maps have water deep enough that you can swim through. Honestly, it might be for the best considering how badly TF2's combat works in water, but with that being said, there's also a bunch of cool stuff it can add to a map. For example, the deep water on Pier actually allows players to keep their momentum from jumps, as seen here. The deep water also allows for players to take a variety of flank routes, which have an element of risk to them due to drowning. Whilst Pier has quite a bit of water, you might be surprised to see that swimmable water is rarely found. Some maps include Well, Lakeside, Banana Bay, and technically Two Forward and Double Cross, however I'm reluctant to call this deep water. Aside from lasers, drowning, saws and trains, there are actually a ton of other environmental hazards, however most of them are quite minor or Halloween exclusive. Considering just how many there are, I'll quickly go over ones that could be in cooler maps. Lava. No, I'm not talking about the lava on Halloween maps, but the lava on Pitfall. Instead of instantly killing you, it will quickly tick away at your health and give you some time to escape. How does this make sense considering it's lava? I have no idea, but it actually serves as an interesting game mechanic. Too bad there's only one map this appears on its manpower. Bombs. These explosives are found on a ton of Halloween and invasion maps, and when shot, they explode, dealing an insane amount of damage. Their presence can change the way you approach enemies quite considerably, and nothing makes you feel smarter than landing a well-placed bomb kill. However, these can often feel gimmicky, and I think it would get annoying quickly if these were found on more official maps. Despite this, I think they could find their place in a couple maps. Being crushed. Multiple objects in the game can crush you when you stand under them. Whilst most of these aren't designed with an environmental hazard in mind, it's still worthy of a mention, as it can occasionally make a difference, and I could definitely see maps implementing this as a hazard. Perhaps most notably is the carts on High Tower, which can drop down and squash any players unlucky enough to be under them. Moving on from map mechanics that kill you, I'm going to be talking about one-way doors. These are found on pretty much every map in the form of spawn doors, but very few maps use them in interesting ways. However, some maps do use them in interesting ways, such as Badwater Basin and Well. This door on Badwater Basin can give flanking players a shortcut to the enemy spawn, provided an enemy is on the other side of the door, and this door on Well can be a great escape route, but it forces players to commit to their decision, as trying to get back will result in drowning. So, those are most of TF2's map mechanics that I found interesting. I think most of these are really underutilized, and they can all provide interesting changes to the game's mechanics. I'm sure there are many more that I forgot about, and many more I didn't even know about in the first place. So if you know any, let me know. And with that being said, thanks for watching.